Well, it's Tuesday, and you all know what that means. That means NWA Powerrr, as you know, we have a couple of title matches taking place. We have, of course, the United States Tag Team titles, the 10 pounds of gold. We have of course, the tag team titles on the round and special matches taking place. We also got NXT with their go home show before we head out to No Mercy this Saturday. But anything could happen until then. But however, many questions do arise before we get to that. But first things first, we're going to do a couple of reviews from just recently from this month. Back on September 16th, Consejo Mundial Lucha Libre, or as we know them, CMLL, has celebrated their 90-year anniversary show. We had a couple of matches involved. We had a title match. We got matches involving 2 out of 3 falls, a special match for hair versus hair, and of course, mask versus mask. And then, of course, we have Stardom. We would continue with day 20th of the 5-star Grand Prix. So we're going to see who advances. But also, we'll cap it up with some news updates to tell what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, such as what the events, the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, and of course, what matches are set. Any departure wrestlers or wrestlers are being signed from any promotion, any injured wrestlers, or the whole enchilada. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Lead It Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Lead It Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Jay right here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we review a lot of pro wrestling shows from anywhere in the world, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world, especially whatever country it has wrestling small, but is not as big as we think, as long as it's growing. We also do some discussion videos. We also do some news updates alert and do Nagi Sayaka watch if you're not a fan of her. But we got plenty of other things we do on this channel. But if you like what you see, please subscribe to us, and we'll be doing daily reviews almost every day, and once in a while we do the other videos as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or give us a nice comment down below. So, our first review we're going to go for is, of course, Consejo Mundial Lucha Libre, better known as CML. Now, this is one of the oldest promotions down in Mexico. These guys are celebrating 90 years since they've been operating. I remember as a kid watching their shows before AAA became well known. I remember seeing some of my favorite wrestlers growing up over there. But it was great to see them again. It's been a while since I don't know how long. I don't know if I ever did a review on this one, but on this promotion. But I'm glad that I was able to see this one. This is their 90-year anniversary show that recently took place back on the 16th of September in the Arena Mexico. This is their personal, of course, arena there where they do their shows almost every single time. So let's get started with their first match. We have a title match. This is for the CMLL World Women's Tag Team titles that were recently vacant. So there's 2 teams that were involved. The first one is, of course, Zausix and Stephanie Vakir. They take on the tag team La Chicas Indomables, consistent of Jari Hope and La Lluvia. Now, I am familiarized with La Lluvia's name before. I've heard her name many times over. But it was a pretty good match, you know. However, this match ended with, of course, a double small package pile driver in order to win the match. So Vakir and her tag partner won the titles. Now, our next match is the Copa Independencia final match. This is like some sort of like a tournament that took place. We have two guys named um, Fugido and Esfigen. I don't know, Esfinge or something like that. Yeah, part of my Spanish. My Spanish is a little bit rusty because I spent the last few years in English. But yes, don't know much about these guys, but I can tell you how this one ended. It was a pretty good, decent match. I mean, it's nothing too big, nothing I wasn't pumped. But it was Finge who actually won this match and won the cup. So yeah, I can tell you that much. Now our next three matches are 2 out of 3 fall match. Now, the promotion does been known for have this type of stipulation, 2 out of 3 falls match. Triple A doesn't actually do these type of stipulations unless if it's a special match. But these guys do this all the time. I've seen it many times. Now, our first team, we have Virus. He teams up with Fuerza Guerrera, who is in fact the father of Juventud Guerrera, and of course our tag partner is El Satánico. They take on Blue Panther, Octagon, and Atlantis. I have been a fan of Blue Panther, Octagon, and Atlantis as a kid. I remember seeing them watch. I remember the first match I ever watched in Lucha Libre was Blue Panther versus Atlantis in a title match, and Atlantis won that match. But it's great to see that. But however, the way this match works, there's always a captain selected, and from the Rudo side, we have El Satánico who became captain. As for the Technicals, which is the baby faces, they in fact nominated Atlantis as their captains. The first fall actually goes to los Rudos, Virus, Fuerza Guerrera, and Satánico. It was by triple pinfall, and then the second fall goes to los Técnicos. Same thing with it was a double pinfall that took place, but the final fall actually went to los Técnicos when Octagon applied a submission on his longtime rival, which is Fuerza Guerrera, giving the Technicals the win. So it's great to see that. So basically, I will be determining who is in fact, when we cross with this, who is the Technicals, who is in the Rudos. Technicals are the baby faces, just to keep everyone clear. The Rudos are the heels. So we're going to be doing that whenever we run into these type of matches. Now, we do have another best 2 out of 3 falls. We have Lince Dorada teaming up with his old pal. You may knew him as Calisto, but he's known as now Samurai del Sol. So they take on Titan from Lij, and of course Soberano Jr. I have seen Soberano Jr. before, but a couple years ago when I went to see the Crash. But I can tell you how this one actually went. The first fall went to Titan and Soberano due to a pinfall by Titan, and then the second fall goes to Lince Dorada and Samurai del Sol, and then the final fall goes to, of course, Lince Dorada and Samurai del Sol. So it's a very straightforward match. I mean, not much of a story wise telling, but I have to say, seeing Lince Dorada and Samurai del Sol team up again after all these time, it's great to see that they did that. Now, this is our last match involving the 2 out of 3 fall match. This is a New Japan versus CMLL match. Representing CMLL, we have Atlantis Jr., Máscara Dorada, and of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Místico. They take on Kevin Knight, Rocky Romero, and TJP. And you probably ask, okay, who is to select the captains? We have for New Japan, Rocky Romero, and as for, of course, CMLL, we have, surprise, surprise, Místico. So that kind of sets the whole thing. I think it was a pretty good one. However, it was New Japan who picked up the first fall, thanks to Kevin Knight. Second fall goes to, of course, CMLL, thanks to Atlantis Jr. But the third fall, in fact, goes into, of course, CMLL, thanks to Místico when he applied La Mística onto Kevin Knight, I believe. Yeah. On Rocky Romero. So that ends it right there. So the two captains ended just like that. Now, this next match is a very interesting one for all of you. Now, the winners of this match will move on to the next round, which goes into the hair versus hair. Now, we'll get to that in a bit. So, the team number one, let's call them Los Rudos. We have Arveno and his old friend, Ultimo Guerrero. They take on Los Técnicos, Volador Jr., and Ángel de Oro. So basically, this is not a 2 out of 3 fall. This is just a straightforward match with one fall only. But however, this match ended when, of course, there was a miscommunication between Averno and Ultimo Guerrero. But it was, of course, a submission by Ángel de Oro to Ultimo Guerrero and ended like that. But however, post match, Guerrero and Arveno were beating the crap out of each other. If you guys may or may not have been aware, they used to be part of a unit back in the day, but now it seems their feud goes even further. But however, we jump into the hair versus hair match, where of course it features Ángel de Oro and Volador. Now keep in mind, loser of this match, they have to have their head shaved. This is a tradition that we've seen many years in Mexico. Some of you say, what's the significance? Well, it's more like you lost your honor, you've been humiliated, embarrassed in front of everybody, especially your friends, your family, that sort of thing. But however, Ángel de Oro immediately attacked Volador Jr. I have seen Volador Jr. lose his hair more than once. I mean, he did lose his mask years ago, but however, in the end of this match, it was a Canadian destroyer by Volador Jr. that put away Ángel de Oro and allowing for Ángel de Oro to, of course, be the one to suffer the humiliation where he had to cut his hair. Well, first he removed the long locks and gave it to Volador Jr., telling him, claim your prize. And then, of course, just like that, it just ends like that with that. So basically, Volador Jr., he gets the hair, but Ángel de Oro, well, he'll probably have to grow his hair longer. Even his brother was there. Ángel Rojo, I think that's his name. But yeah. Now our main event is a mask versus mask. Now this is one of those crucial type of matches that many luchadors go through, because the thing is, you may have your favorite masked luchador, but you don't want him to lose his mask, because let me give you a little history of that. When you lose a mask, it's more like you lost your identity. Many wrestlers, after losing their mask, have a hard time trying to reinvent themselves, trying to be something away from what they used to be. We've seen that with Andrade El Idolo, who was known as La Sombra. He was unable to find success even without his mask. And now that he's not going by that name, he's doing exactly that. Juventud Guerrera was one of them. Of course, he did find success without the mask. So basically, the idea is once you lose your mask, you have to learn how to reinvent yourself, even if you are still the same person that you were before. But that's the last thing that anybody wants. But however, Dragon Rojo attacked his opponent in Templario before he got to the ring. So it became a total mayhem. But also, for the record, this match is not a 2 out of 3 falls match. It's just a 1 fall match. But in the end, it was Templario with a small package power driver that allowed him to win the match. I did mention recently the name, Dragon Rojo's name, his age, and the years he's been wrestling. I think his name is Anselmo Rivas Castro. He's 42 years old and, of course, 22-year pro. So, yeah. But right now, the obvious thing is, how will Dragon Rojo actually will reinvent himself? Well, we'll find out in the future. So, I think that's pretty much it, what we have for CMLL. So, let's move on with Stardom with more of the 5-star Grand Prix. Okay, we continue with day 20 of the 5-star Grand Prix by Stardom. This was in Sendai. I think we only had 2 matches each from to the respective blocks, the Blue Star and the Red Star. We'll get to that in a bit. So let's begin with the matches involving with the 5-star. Our first one, we have a bit of we have a very interesting match. We have Yuna Mizumori versus Ami Sourei. Now, this is a very interesting development that took place during the match. Julia, as you know, who decides to put her New Japan Strong Women's title on the line to Ami Sourei, was in fact present watching. Now, keep in mind, Julia has this strong ability where she feels you're not strong enough for this match. But of course, for Ami Sourei, we have seen how strong she is. I mean, look, she has held 2 titles, which is the future belt, the tag title. So that should have been accounted. But Julia is not convinced. But however, it was Ami Sourei with the like a thunderbolt that put away Yuna Mizumori. But by the end of the match, of course, it became a full-on brawl between both Julia and Ami Sourei. However, Julia decided, I'm going to teach Ami Sourei how it's done. So she ended up facing against the newcomer, of course, Anako. But I can tell you that this match ended with the STF, with Julia winning. And of course, Ami Sourei and Julia continue the brawl. And Julia is trying to show her that she is not strong enough to be in the same match. But of course, she probably will. So we'll see what happens between those two. It's not yet decided because we do have 2 events coming up soon. We have a New Blood show taking place, and of course the Nagoya event taking place, because we know that Julia will participate for the artist belts, where she, Tekla, and Mai Sakurai will defend them against Maika Suzu and Megan Bayne. So we'll see what happens afterwards. Now, our next match, we have Mei Sita teaming up once again with Megasis, Mega Bayne. They take on the members of Stars, consistent of Saida and Koguma. Now, Saida, who's playing the strong one, of course she'll get in the face of Megan Bayne because she shows she's not afraid of her. But like any other type of match, when it comes to seeing who's strong, Megan Bayne was the one who picked up the win when she did a choke bomb onto Saida that allowed her and Mei Sita to win the match. Now, our next match, we have Club Venus members consistent of Waka Tsukiyama and Mariah May. They take on the members of Stars, consistent, of course, Hanan and Mayu Iwatani. Now, throughout the entirety of this match, it appears the Club Venus are interested and try to get Hanan to switch to defect to Club Venus because they really have an interest in her. Because I did mention this before, Mina did have a match with Hanan. Her first match with her was back in 2020 when she first arrived. I think that was on October 3rd. But of course, recently we saw Hanan and Mariah May team up during Dream Tag. So that Dream Tag Festival. So that sets the whole thing up. But however, in this case, it was the backdrop driver that Hanan applied with Waka to pick up the win. So I'm sure that Club Venus will do whatever it takes to see if they can get Hanan to turn their side. I mean, I know Mayu Iwatani has often said that she could be the next leader of Stars once she retires or so. So we'll see what that happens. Now, our next match, we have, of course, a very interesting development. We have Oedo Tai, consistent of Ruka, Starlight Kid, and Natsuko Tora. They take on God's Eye, consistent of Suri, Saki Kashima, and Mariah May. Now remember, Saki Kashima was a former member of Oedo Tai until she was expelled during that Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai steel cage match, and Saki was the last one to remain behind. However, that was by design, thanks to Natsuko Tora, who thought of her maybe she was a nuisance. But it was the first time now where, of course, Saki Kashima has to pick up the win, knowing. But in fact, it was Mirai who picked up the win with the strong lariat on Ruka to pick up the win. But you know that this thing between Saki Kashima and Oedo Tai is not over yet. They will stop at nothing to break her in half. Now, our next match, this is for the Blue Stars 5-star Grand Prix. Mina Shirakawa and Maika. Now, many people have often talked about that the possibility that Mina Shirakawa could be heading to the finals. Now, I will explain that a little bit once I review this. And of course, Maika is in this one. So, you probably would have thought that there was going to be one up in the other. That's something that many fans would have thought, but no. In the end of this match, it ended in a time limit draw with 15 minutes, so each gets 1 point. However, right in the post match, this seems like where, of course, Mina blames Maika that she did not get the advancements that she needs, because this would put her in a predicament, because you don't know if there's a strong possibility. Now, I'll get to that in a bit. Same thing with Maika. But now, for the Red Stars, well, hold on, let me go back. For the Blue Stars between Mina and Maika, Mina has currently 9 points with 1 draw and 4 wins. As for Maika, I think she has 2 draws and 4 wins. So that makes it, of course, 8 points. So that kind of sets it on. Now let's jump into the Red Stars. We have Suzuki versus Azuki. I thought the match was pretty straightforward. But of course, both of them are strong. But in the end, it was Suzuki who picked up the win with the German suplex. Walks away with the total of 10 points, while Azuki got 8. So that sets it all. However, let me explain about what the situation with Mina that goes on. There is Monthly Pierre Russo believes that there is the strong possibilities that the finals of the 5-star Grand Prix will end between both Tam Nakano and Mina Shirakawa. Now, why would that be significant? Let's think about it. Tam Nakano last year was in fact so close in winning the 5-star Grand Prix against Julia, which of course shattered her, knowing that she did not reach to the top like she would have hoped for. Mina Shirakawa, we all seen how much she has risen. So that could set up. Now, what happens if Tam wins and she is the current red belt champion? Well, in my honest opinion, I don't think there hasn't been any red belt champion that won the 5-star Grand Prix. But if Tam does it, she becomes the first. She could nominate her opponent for Dream Queendom by December. But the obvious question, who would she pick? Well, there is one person I can think of, but the obvious problem is, will she be ready by then? And the person you guys probably think who I'm talking about, I'm referring to Saya Kamitani. Now remember, in day 1 of the 5-star Grand Prix, Kamitani dislocated her elbow during her match with Tam. So that is the possibility that we could see. Now, if Mina wins, well, you know the obvious, she will be gunning for the red belt. That's the obvious thing. She would definitely want that. But however, I do know several people that believe if Tam does win this, then she finally fulfills the one thing that eluded her, which was winning the 5-star Grand Prix. But we'll see when we get to the epic conclusion for the time being. So right now, I think we'll just end it here with Stardom and move on with NWA Powerrr. Okay, NWA Powerrr. So, it begins with the 4-way qualifying match for the television title. We have Chris Adonis versus Mims versus Jordan Clearwater versus Blake Troop. Now, these are wrestlers who already pleaded their cases that deserve an opportunity of the World Television title. However, who will be the one to walk out? To my surprise, this guy should have already been going for this belt a long time ago, and that is, of course, Mims. When he applied a slam onto Troop 1, 2, 3, he's in the qualifying round. So we'll see how that proceeds even further. Now, Kyle Davis went into the podium to interview our Crockett Cup winners, Mike Knox and Trevor Murdoch. Now, we saw what happened at NWA 75. They were screwed out of the tag team titles thanks to that prick, Aaron Stevens. So they will saying that they're destined to become tag champions. But however, the only problem they need to deal is that prick, Aaron Stevens. So the obvious thing is how they're gonna deal with him. I mean, The obvious thing is to have someone to have their back, like a manager or someone. We don't know. But we'll see how that rolls up because that's our main event. Now, our next match, we have former NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion Maddie taking on the former NWA Women's World Champion Camille. Now, Maddie did mention on an interview that she believes since losing the NWA World Women's Championship made Camille soft. But the obvious question is, was she right? Well, I can tell you this, that she was wrong because she herself got speared. So that means Camille does still have an edge, but we don't know what's next for her. I mean, the report says that she was officially done with the NWA, but we don't know where she's going to go next. I wouldn't be surprised if she goes with any other promotion, but we'll see. Now, our next match is a title match. This is for the NWA United States Tag Team titles. We have the Brothers of Funstruction, Yabo and Rufo, taking on Daisy Kill and Talos. Now, I want to put something to remind people. Before Daisy Kills and Talos won these titles, it was, of course, the Brothers of Funstruction that defeated the previous tag champions. We're talking about the Country Gentleman, AJ Kazana, and his cousin Anthony Andrews. But it would make sense why they went for it. But I can tell you this, I had a feeling that they were going to show up to cost them this match. And I'm talking about La Rebellion, Mecha Wolf and Bestia 666, along with Vampira. I knew they were going to interfere, costing them the tag match. And it did, because of course it was Daisy Kill who picked up the win by pinning Rafu. But of course, the match ended in a brawl between both the Funstruction and Rebellion. So it became out of control. But we'll see what happens until then. Now, Sam LaTurna took an interview with Brady Pierce. It appears that, of course, Rolando Freeman has issues towards him. But Brady Pierce believed that he's willing to forgive Rolando as long as he side with them with the winning team. So that's what he wants. He wants Rolando to see the light, to see his light, that you're better off with him than his brother. So we'll see what happens until that time. Now, our next match is the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Jay Bradley gets an opportunity of the 10 pounds of gold by EC3. It wasn't an easy match for EC3, but the match ended with him doing the purpose. And, of course, Jay Bradley had no other choice but to, of course, to tap. Now, Sam LaTurna did another interview, but this time she met up with Natalia Markova and Taylor Rising. Now, this is a very interesting thing. Now we're seeing Taylor and Markova, that it seems like they're forming a tag team. So it appears now, as you know, Markova has pursued the women's title before, but now it seems like now they want to pursue for something better. Together known for the NWA Women's World Tag Team title, currently being possessed by, of course, Pretty in Power. So that could happen at Samhain, this October show to take place, but we'll see where that leads us. Now, finally, Sam LaTurna took another interview with Boyle DeMar after the recent developments, like what happened with Silas, with Thrillbilly, dumping her, and of course the winning the North American title. But Boyle DeMar says that that she will start over, but the real question is what's next. But that piece of garbage who talks too much of himself, Joe Alonso, tells her that no one cares about her, that no one gives a damn, that it's over. But I wouldn't be surprised, because if Joe Alonso thinks that, he should keep his mouth shut, because I have a feeling that Boyle DeMar will find a way to move on, and it's going to be that simple. Now, our main event is, of course, the NWA World Tag Team titles. Knox and Murdoch taking on the Blood Force Trauma. Now, you probably would have assumed that they finally will become the tag champions, but no. I knew that Weasel, Aaron C, was going to try something, because, of course, you know what they say. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So basically, Aaron Stevens tossed the chair, and the ref thought it was, of course, not Murdoch and Knox. But, of course, It wasn't, so he screwed him. Sooner or later, Knox and Murdoch will get those titles, even if the boss will have to say, well, they deserve more chances. And I'm sure Aaron Stevens is not going to take that kindly, but only time will tell. So we'll see what happens until then. But right now, let's move on to our final review, and this is NXT. Okay, NXT, so let's begin. Now, we have the final of the Global and Heritage Invitational between the two finalists, Butch and Joe Coffey. Now, this is a very crucial match. Of course, Noam Dar and the rest of his group, Metaphor, will be watching. But the obvious question they need to ask themselves, who would they want? Well, in my honest opinion, I think none of them, because they're scary dudes. And don't forget, Joe Coffey has Gallus. They will always back him up. But Butch E is not someone you don't want to mess with. So I don't know who wants him more, but I can tell you this: this match ended with, of course, the bitter end, thanks to Butch to pick up the win, and he will see Noam Dar at No Mercy. Now, as a result of what happened on Raw, Dominic Mysterio retained his title against Dragon Lee. However, he thought that, in his honest opinion, that of course he gets the night off on Saturday. But unfortunately, Shawn Michaels, who is the head of NXT, has informed that there's going to be a number one contendership match in a three-way: Tyler Bate, Axiom, and Dragon Lee, which of course Dominic infuriated him, knowing that this is not how things should have been. Well, too bad, kid. No one's going to go unnoticed. Now, our next match, we have Trick Williams versus Joe Gacy. I have to say, this is where I think, in my opinion, right now with Trick Williams, that he is now stepping up to be his own man, to step up his own way. Now, Gacy believes that he's alone, that no one cares about him, because Trick did say that he did not break up with Carmelo Hayes, that he's now stepping up to be his own person. And of course, Melo appreciates that out of him. But he had to face Joe Gacy. I thought it was a pretty good match, but out of nowhere, Trick Williams picked up a very good win. 1, 2, 3, just like that. But he, during the post-match comments in the ring with Kelly, I didn't know what he was going to say, but it seems that he has other plans, saying that he knows that Melo could walk away to retain his title at No Mercy. So, apparently he has something in mind. Now, later on, we did see Trick Williams walk into Shawn Michaels to have a little chat with him. So, we'll get to that in a bit. Now, our next match, we have Baron Corbin taking on Josh Briggs. Well, this match, as you know, Baron Corbin's trying to prove a point that guys like the current NXT roster are too soft. But, of course, it was the end of days by Baron Corbin to pick up the win. And, of course, later on, we saw a Braun Breaker come out, and then things got a little out of hand between both Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker. So it kind of went into, a very strong fight. Now, our next match, this is an open invitation to who will get the final seat at the table with, what's their name? With Tony D'Angelo and the other participants. We'll get to that in a bit. We have Hank Walker and Tech Langer taking on the OTM Out of the Mud, consisting of Bronco Lima and Lucian Price, along with Scripps. This match ended, of course, with OTM when Price pinned Ledger, and they get the final seat at the table. Now, during a much recent interview, we did see Davenport talk about Gigi Dolan, how she attacked her from behind. Well, as soon as the interview was done, she returned the favor and attacked Gigi. So we could see a feud between these two. Now, at the table with Tony D'Angelo along with Stax, they meet up with, of course, Humberto Garza and Gabriel, and of course his cousin Angel Garza. Then, of course, we see the Creed brothers show up. Even Brutus, who's enjoying the food. Of course, I think the D'Angelo family are fond of Brutus, in my opinion. But of course, we did see in the final of the table OTM. Now, Of course, Tony D'Angelo knows these guys have an interesting case. So, of course, he's willing to listen. So, I'm not 100% sure if I presume this right. I'm not sure if he's planning, let's take all of you at No Mercy. Winner walks away. So, he's saying, let's make this into a fatal four-way for the tag titles. So, if that's what he's planning on doing, then that's going to be a very tough challenge for the family. Now, in the meantime, in the backstage, Axiom and Tyler Bate, who have been very good friends, were talking about their upcoming three-way match for the #1 contendership against Dragon Lee. However, Trick Williams somehow inserted himself to be involved in this match. Instead of becoming a triple threat, it became a fatal four-way. And I'm sure Axiom and Tyler Bate did not like that, but it is what it is. It ended up just like that, per Shawn Michaels' request. Now, our next match, the strap match between Eddie Thorpe and Dijak. Now, these two guys have been going back and forth. Dijak, the so-called man of justice, who feels that guys like Eddie Thorpe deserve justice. He defeated him twice by cheating his way through, but this time they're in a strap match. They're beating the crap out of each other, or they've been brutalizing each other. But in the end, it was, of course, Eddie Thorpe with a big elbow to pick up the win. But however, Dijak, who refuses to let this go, attacked Eddie Thorpe, decided he wants to break him in half. So I don't know if this thing between them is going to be over. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match, we have Danny Palmer taking on the new and improved Thea Hale, since aligned herself with Jay-Z Jane. Of course, this match was going to end with Thea Hale when she applied the Kimura lock, forcing Danny Palmer to win. But however, Duke Hudson and Andre Chase, who don't like what they're seeing, are a little concerned over Jay-Z Jane being involved. So I don't know what's going to happen, but if I was Andre Chase, I'd find someone to replace her, someone who would take her spot. But the obvious question, who would that be? Well, we'll see. Now, our next match, of course, is the #1 contendership for the North American title. We have Dragon Lee, Tyler Bate, Trick Williams, and Axiom. I thought this match was pretty good. However, everybody gunned for Trick Williams because he was the common threat. But however, Axiom and Tyler Bate probably thought the same thing about Dragon Lee. But in the end, it was Dragon Lee that headbutted Trick Williams and hit Tyler Bate from behind and landed on Axiom, winning the #1 contendership. So that sets it all right there. So he is now the #1 contender, and the possibility, I would like to see Trick Williams defeat Dominic Mysterio. But however, during an interview, speaking of Dom, who feels like Shawn Michaels, he feels, hey, Shawn, you do not run NXT, I run it, and guess who attacked him? Dragon Lee. He hasn't forgotten the tricks he played, but however, it was later revealed that Dragon Lee will be the special guest referee. So, Mommy's not there to protect him this time, so we'll see what happens. So, till then. Now, there was a contract signing between, of course, Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes for No Mercy. Now, Hayes is confident enough to believe that he will walk out. But, of course, Dragunov, who we've seen how dangerous, how crazy he can be, he is confident enough for himself to say he will walk out. So we'll see who walks out. That's something we definitely got to see. Now, but before the show ended, of course, we did see later on Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin beating the crap out of each other in the parking lot. And they were going everywhere. Outside, inside. They even busted into Shawn Michaels' office. I have to say, this is out of hand. So, there's no way these two are going to keep their hands each other off before we get to Saturday. So, we'll see what happens until then. And I think that's pretty much it, what we have for NXT. Let's move on with our last and final thing. And that is news updates. Okay, welcome to our news update. So this is what we have. Now, recently, as you may or may not have been aware, there have been a lot of concerns and questions with the promotion that based out of Illinois, Warrior Wrestling. Now, as you all remember, Eddie Kingston has announced that since he is now double champion for the Ring of Honor World Championship and the New Japan Openweight Strong Championship, basically he will be stopping independent shows for the time being, as long as he still is double champion for both promotions. However, he is a frequent. He made frequencies appearances at Warrior Wrestling. So since now this is taking place, Warrior Wrestling decided to have a conversation with Eddie Kingston and AEW over this matter. The solution has been announced that they're going to replace him with Santana. So that's going to be interesting to hear. So seems like they work things out between both sides. Now, as you know, Jade Cargill, as you know, her contract with AEW is already done. There were word that she will be heading to WWE, so it appears that ESPN has revealed that she signed a multi-year contract with WWE. Now, I know some of you WWE loyalists are happy with it. Of course, there's still no indication if she will be going to NXT or jump the gun, head to the main roster. That is still some uncleared questions. I mean, someone like Jade Cargill, many of us would say she definitely would appear at the main roster. But we'll see how that plays out when we see the actual date. So we don't know exactly when will that happen, but we will stay close an eye on that. Now, I did mention on a recent update and a much previous about Katsuhiko Nakajima. The announcement was made that he is leaving the promotion Pro Wrestling Noah, which was a very unusual thing. Now, mine is the assumption that he probably will end up going to New Japan Pro Wrestling, but I don't know yet. Now, this is what he had to say about about leaving Noah. At the age of 35, 20 years into my career, I wanted to challenge myself. In this double turning point year, with nothing to lose, I wanted to test myself and ask myself, how far can I go? Now, I don't know what that means. So it seems that maybe he's, like, in his perspective, he feels that, okay, maybe he has accomplished everything in Noah. So how far can he go at his age, knowing that maybe his time is up in Noah and now he wants to continue? So there's still no indication what's next for him once he's done. Now, keep in mind, his contract expires by the end of the month, but he will be making 2 appearances in October, which will be his last Pro Wrestling No events. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up at New Japan Pro Wrestling. That is something I could definitely see, but we'll see what happens until then. Now, Spark Yoshi Puroresu of America has announced for the Rising Heat East show on the 14th of October. Another match has been announced. We have the Pink Striker, Miyu Yamashita, taking on Jessie, who you all know from Club Venus. So she will be in a match against her. So that's going to be really cool to watch. North Carolina promotion Deadlock Pro Wrestling has announced for their Live 3 show on the 15th of October. The DPW National Championship will be on the line in a 4-way. The current champion, the bounty hunter Brian Keefe, defends the belt against Dominic Guarini, Kevin Koo, and Mike Bailey. So that's going to be one hell of a match. Wrestlers from Stardom, Julia and Saida, seems like they're going to participate in the 35-year anniversary of Takako Inoue's 35-year anniversary. But appears that there's going to be a very interesting match where it involves Shinobi Kandori, as you know, who has some strong things towards Stardom. So that's going to be interesting to see. 2 matches has announced for the upcoming Prestige event, Decimate the Week, on the 12th of October. First one is Alan Angels taking on Filthy Tom Lawler, and then we have a tag match, Midnight Heat taking on the All City Assault Brigade. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, our Final update is coming from the West Coast Pro event for their 5th anniversary West Coast 5 on the 14th of October. The women's title will be defended. Takumi Iroha will be defending the title against Masha Slamovich. So that's going to be interesting to hear. There's going to be an 8-woman tag match. We have Miu Momono and Sadra Moon teaming up with Magenta, consisting of Riko Kawahara and Maria. Their opponents are none other than my favorite Unagi Sayaka, Johnny Robbie, Rachel Ellering, and Chikayo Nagashima. So those are going to be interesting. I think that's pretty much it what we have for our news updates. I believe it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you know, we have AEW Dynamite. Now, I haven't seen any of the much recent GCW events, but however, due to some circumstances, I may not be able to do that for the next episode due to some other circumstances that leads to the next day, but we'll see how that will turn. However, there will be another, if you guys have me on my podcast, the WZ podcast with J-Rod, I will be doing another episode. Now, however, if you guys, this was recently emailed me in of course in the Gmail. Apparently, Google Pause by next year will be removed. So if any of you guys have me on Google Podcast for my podcast, just letting you guys know. If you guys don't have me on hear me on my podcast, you guys can find me on Spotify. So that's the most logical place you guys can find me at. So you guys should check it out. So I think that's pretty much it for everything else. But for now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I'm going to bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.